one of the things that I just wanted to touch on before we get started today is that whenever we're in here at this time, we have a whole bunch of kids who are sitting in the front here, and currently a baby's room that is jam-packed with babies, all right, I think, and another classroom upstairs that is just packed with kids. And it takes, we have some staff who are working in there, but also we have some volunteers. And it is honestly such a blessing, isn't it, for you as a parent to come and sit in here and know that your kids are actually being fed and actually being taught some awesome stuff, and they got just as cool a program as we've got in here. Is that cool? Yes? So today they're starting a brand new series as well, and they've got two series. For the younger kids, it's called Colorific, and the other one is this one right over here, Dirty Jobs, all right? Somebody's got to do it. So if you're a parent and, your kid's gone to that today, you know what you can use this week, all right? So we want to celebrate them as they leave for their series. So can we just, put our hands together, and a big shout out to all the kids. And can we give a big shout out to Shanae and Pat, who lead them every single week. All right. Thanks so much, guys. So I am super pumped about this series, Everybody Always, because I think it's who we are as a church community. And if you have not heard of this author called Bob Goff, all right, he's written this book. It's called Everybody Always. And a couple of years ago, we did his book that was what? Who can remember? Love Does, all right? And it's such an encouraging, it's a fresh perspective of what faith and what church should really look like. And basically, this book is just filled with stories. It's just filled with all his stories about his life, how messy it is, how good it is, and what God is doing, through his life. So it's such an encouraging read. If you want one of these books, just go on Book Depository. They're only $15, or we might have a few. And does anyone want this book? Yeah? Nick, you going to read it? Awesome. All right. There we go. So, if you're joining us for the first time today, I always push the chair just a bit back. I just wanted you guys to know that. It's one of my bad habits when I'm on stage, all right? I just wanted to put that out there today because I always do it, and sometimes I even just adjust the TV, but I don't, all right? But if you're joining us for the first time today, we're a church community, and we want to get our hands dirty. We want to actually live our lives through faith, through Jesus. We find that, life is so much better. It's not easier, but we do find it better when we're following Jesus. And you're in a safe place today if it's your first time. If you follow Jesus, if you don't follow Jesus, if you believe in him or you don't believe in him, you're welcome here today. And you're not just invited, all right? You're actually welcome, all right? So I want to ask you guys a question. Have any of you ever felt left out before? Yeah? Such a great feeling, right? No? It is like one of the most awful feelings ever when there's either a group or there's some people that make it and you don't, and you just get left out. And this week, I don't know why, but it must have been God, because now I'm understanding what happened this week. But this week I was flicking through the channels, and I came across The Bachelor. Has anyone watched The Bachelor? Huh? All right? This is honestly, I think, the first time I watched it, all right? And, right? Malcolm, who are you cheering for? Hey? So anyway, I'm watching it because I know some of you watch The Bachelor, and I need to know what everyone's watching. And I was blown away at how, just how the program works. And does everyone know what The Bachelor is? If you don't, it's this reality show where, there's about, I don't know how many ladies on the TV all fighting for the one guy, all right? And what's interesting, at the end of each show, I'm guessing, he gives everyone a rose, except a few who don't make it, all right? And they actually leave the house, and they don't win the show. But what was interesting for me is the anxiety and the stress, and just watching all of those ladies' faces when he's about to, he takes a while to actually pass the rose on to someone. And I thought about it, and I thought, honestly, I'm sure that those ladies aren't really looking for true love, right? Because it's a show. It's like, I'm sure it's even written, a few of the lines in there. But one of the things, I think they leave the house in the limo, bawling their eyes out, crying like they can't believe. And I think it's actually just because they feel left out. They just feel, man, I'm not part of this. I'm not chosen, and it stings. We all know it. If you follow God or if you don't follow God, if you love cheese or you don't love cheese, we all know that feeling of being left out. And I wrote this down. I said that being out is awful, all right? It is. It sucks. However, the other flip side of that is being in is amazing, all right? We've all, in some area of our life, felt this being out, how awful that is, and the opposite as well. And one of the interesting things is that when we're in, all right, we almost have this like puffed up head and like look at the others like, oh, sorry, you didn't make it. You're just not good enough. One of these occasions, and I really didn't want to share this story, but I guess every week when I'm speaking here, I run out of stories to share, and I thought, well, I guess today's the day where I'm going to share a bit of a story that I felt awful. I felt like, man, life just sucks. And it was a couple of years ago, maybe more than a couple, about 10 years ago, and I was in this group called Abundant Life. I was in this youth group, and one of the things that they did was they did this concert. Do any of you guys ever heard of the Gaithers? All right? It's like the singing group. And they'd do these concerts where they'd organize a whole team from South Africa. It's about 40 people or 50 people. They're on stage, and they sing all these Christian songs. And I love singing, all right? I honestly do. However, I don't like singing in front of people, like up front here. And one of the ladies who was actually running the thing, she said, oh, Wes, please can you come and sing with us? And I really didn't want to. In my gut, I didn't want to be part of that group because, number one, I didn't really like the music, the Gaithers, all right? And number two, I just didn't want to sing in front of this whole crowd. So eventually, I don't know how it worked out, but I get sucked into actually having to be part of the singing group. So we have to travel for practice, and it's about 4 hours from where we're living. Everyone comes from around South Africa, and we start practicing. And it's over the weekend, so the Saturday we sing pretty much the whole day. And then on the Sunday we get there the next day, and I'm singing, and the coordinator, all right, the choir sort of director, at one point when we're having a break, she comes up to me and she says, oh, man, can you just sing these notes here? And she stands by the piano there, and she plays a few notes, and she says, oh, could you just sing that? And I tried, and she said, no, you can't sing. You can't sing. And, I won't tell you what I was thinking, all right, or the words that wanted to come out my mouth. And she literally said, no, sorry, you can't be a part of this. So then, there was no way to run or to hide. Everyone was around. Literally, I just went and I sat in the car for the rest of the Sunday, thinking about how awful it is to be left out. Can you relate? It sucks, totally. But the opposite is so true. When we're in, there are these emotions that go through us, and we feel valued. We feel, hey, and it can be in so many different ways. Like, it's not always just performance-based. It's not based upon our skill. Like, maybe you're just part of a friends group. Today, when we live a life of social media, I mean, it gets even more difficult. When we're browsing through Instagram and we see all our friends are doing these things, and we're like, oh man, I'm just sitting behind my computer. This feeling of, being left out. Can you all relate? Yeah? I just wanted to set the tone there, yes? So, interestingly enough, we're speaking about everybody always. And as a church, as guys who actually follow Jesus, we always have this slogan, if we go to the next slide, that reads this. Have you seen this outside of a church before? All are welcome, all right? It's sort of that, it's always on the board. People see it if you just Google churches around the world, you'll probably see all are welcome, all right? However, if I had to ask you this question today, what would your answer be? Is the church's reputation inclusive or exclusive? Is the church's reputation inclusive or exclusive? Let's say I went down to the mall and I asked a couple of people, which answer do you think they're going to give to me? I can guarantee you that probably out of maybe 10 people that I would ask, most probably, I don't know, would probably say exclusive. And it's sad. It's actually really, really sad. It actually breaks my heart. Because for church, I want church to be inclusive. We all want it to be a place where really all are welcome. However, sometimes people don't feel all that welcome. Sometimes it feels like actually it's just a club. Sometimes it feels like, hey, I can only be a part of it if I'm actually doing all these things. And we can portray this reputation of, hey, the church is actually exclusive. Now, the church has actually struggled with this for years and years and years and years. The first century church, as soon as the movement started, when they started following Jesus, the disciples started to follow him. After his death and his resurrection, this movement began of people who were like, hey, we're sold out for who Jesus is and his teachings. And they started to follow this movement. But unfortunately, there was this sort of race, the Jews, who were known for, hey, they were the chosen people. These people were God's chosen people. But when the church actually started, this movement began, some people who were not Jews started to believe as well. They started to see, hey, that there is hope in Jesus, that, hey, following Jesus is a better lifestyle. And they also started to believe in Jesus. And there was this actual conflict that started to break out. There was this discussions that people started to have amongst the community, amongst the church. Hey, who's actually in and who's out? Who actually gets to say they're actually part of the church community, and who actually gets to say that, hey, actually they're not actually in? So Paul, who we speak about often here at Gracegate, is a guy who wrote numerous of the New Testament books in the Bible, which is the second part of the Bible. And Paul, who was a guy who didn't have faith, his job was to actually make sure that he interrogated Christians, that he actually killed Christians. At some point in his life, he has this turnaround, and he actually starts following Jesus. He starts believing, and he starts believing because of eyewitnesses. He starts believing because he was actually in the company of some of the disciples who were actually following Jesus, and they start sharing these stories of their eyewitness accounts, what they saw, and he begins to actually become a Jesus follower. He becomes one of the apostles of the churches and starts teaching and starts actually, the better word or the churchy word is evangelize. He starts sharing the good news of who God is and who Jesus is. But at one point, he runs into a conflict where people are busy fighting, and they're like, hey, if someone becomes a Jesus follower, do they actually have to eat a certain way? Do they have to dress a certain way? One of the points that was actually a big argument was actually like, hey, if a non-Jew is becoming a Christian, all right, should the men actually be circumcised? And everyone was saying, yes, they should be circumcised. And the others were saying, I mean, can you believe it? Like, no one wanted to come to church if they were a guy, right? So this is the conflict that was happening. And today we struggle with this conflict still today. And Paul, this is Paul. He writes this in Romans, and this is what he says. He's trying to answer this debate that's going on. It's found in Romans chapter 3. And he says this. He says, but now apart from the law, the what? The righteousness, all right? And when you see that word righteousness, it's just our right standing with God. In other words, how we get into relationship with God, all right? He says, hey, but now, in this lifetime, while Paul is still alive, he's writing this, and he's saying, but now apart from the law, the righteousness of God has been what? Made known. He says, hey, the Old Testament was always prophesying about it. The Old Testament was always saying, hey, there's going to be a Messiah who's going to come, and he's going to show us how we can get in right standing with God. And he says, hey, and now it has been made known. All of us know it. We've seen it. We've got eyewitnesses of Jesus and what has happened. And he says then, to which the law and the prophets testify. He says this has been prophesied. This has been spoken about for years and years and years. And all the Jews would have understood this. And then he goes on and he says this. He says this righteousness, right, this connection, the way we actually as humanity get into relationship with God is given through what? Through faith in Jesus Christ to all who what? Behave. Hey? No? You see, this is the problem, all right, is that as church communities, we have taken the scripture and we've actually said that, hey, we get a right standing with God. We get into relationship with God through faith in Jesus Christ, and it is up to us the way we behave. We have to measure up. It's performance-based. If we don't tick all the boxes, we can't get in relationship with God. And the reality is, this is where the church has built walls and walls and walls, and actually we've done more damage than good. The correct version is that, hey, the righteousness is given through faith in Jesus Christ to all who believe, to all who trust, to all who put their faith in God. That's how we get connection with God. And then he goes on. And he says, there is no difference. And he's speaking to a Jewish and a Gentile audience here. And he's saying, hey, there is no difference. There is no difference. Humanity is humanity. There is no difference. And he says this then. He says, for all have what? Sinned. All have sinned. This verse and what Paul is doing here has so much weight for us as a community, because this is where often we get it wrong. We often look at others, and we look at them and we say, hey, they can't be in because they don't measure up, because they're not ticking all the boxes that I've got on my list. And for some reason, I don't know why, but we fail to see that all have sinned. We fail to see that, hey, man, I'm just as bad. Man, I've got some damage happening in my heart. And even though maybe I can paint myself all pretty and clean and look good on the outside, there's some stuff that I'm wrestling with on the inside. Paul says, hey, all have sinned. Everyone is on the same playing field. Everyone is on the same playing field. There is no difference. And then he goes on and he says, and fall short of the glory of God. The glory, the prestige, the splendor, who God is. Paul's saying, hey guys, stop fighting. Stop getting this wrong. He's saying, hey, we all fall short of who God is. And the way we get into right standing with God, the way we get connection with God is through our belief. It's through our faith. It's through our trust. It's not performance-based. Doesn't matter how many things we do right and do wrong, but the way we get connection with God is our faith and our trust and our belief in God. This is the message. This is the message of the gospel. This is the message that Jesus actually came and lived and died for and actually showed a new way. This is the message that actually started the first century church. This is the message that continues to actually help us to actually gain momentum as a church and as a people to put our faith in God. This is the message that actually says everybody's welcome, always. Because, hey, none of us measure up. Here's this quote here. It says this: if the message of the church is for everybody, then the culture of the church shouldn't exclude anybody. Do you get that? If the message of the church is for everybody, the culture of the church shouldn't exclude anybody. If the lifestyle that Jesus lived was always for people who were nothing like him, all right? And it's amazing that if you read through the book of Mark, you see that Jesus, wherever Jesus is, there's a crowd that is constantly following him, always around him. And it was mostly people who didn't even believe in him. It was skeptics. And it says here that, hey, if this is the message of the church, if this is what the church's foundation is, that everyone's welcome, then the culture of this church, of this community, shouldn't exclude anybody. No one. Doesn't matter who you are. Doesn't matter what you've gone through. Doesn't matter what you do in this building or outside of this building. The message of the church is that, hey, we're for people. We're for people because we're all on the same playing field. Now, I honestly wish that I could say that I live that kind of life. But I mean, as I was preparing this week with this title, Welcome Everybody Always, I can't explain how many times I was just like, people were grinding my gears this week. And I was like, man, how can I welcome everybody always? Sometimes, occasionally, and especially if they're doing everything right, but always, welcome everybody always. James, who was actually the brother of Jesus, there's another time when the church is arguing about this again. And he shares this message, and they have this big debate actually in Jerusalem. It's found in Acts 15, and this is his saying that he says, after all this dispute is going on, he says this. He says, hey, it is my judgment, therefore, that we should not make it what? Difficult for the Gentiles who are turning to God. He says, hey, as a church community, as a people who are saying, hey, we're following Jesus step by step, we should break down every single barrier that we're building up to make people feel excluded. Because being excluded is awful. It sucks. But being included, being valued, no matter about your behavior or your performance, makes you think, hey, there may be something in this. Hey, maybe this message does have something in it. Hey, maybe this Jesus guy does have something that he could offer me. In this church, in this community, we want to continuously be a church that welcomes everybody always. Man, it is messy. We've been here in this building, I think, for about 4 or 5 years, and I can tell you it's messy. Days when I just man, I just wish I was back in South Africa. I want to throw in the towel. I'm like, man, this is hard. God, seriously, this is tough stuff. But hey, this is what faith is. This is what church is. This is what we as a people want to be. That we will have these doors open and that anyone is welcome. They are valued. They can find a sense of belonging here. If we go to the next slide. Bob Goth says this quote. He says, hey, we shouldn't say everyone's invited, if we're going to act like they're not welcome when they come. Right? Have you ever been to one of those parties where you get invited, you turn up and you're sitting alone the whole time? Maybe not, but it's happened in my case. Hey? And isn't that the case here at church sometimes? I mean, I know that happens. I know people come in here and feel isolated. I mean, it's scary enough to just get in this room. It's like it was scary enough for me to actually go and sing and do that singing stuff. And hey, if I didn't feel included, how much worse it feels. I mean, it's hard for people who have a perception of what that the church is exclusive to even come into this building, to even be a part of this community. That is scary stuff. So then why, when we're saying, hey, if everyone's welcome, all right, or we're inviting everyone, we need to make sure that they feel welcome. Well, how do we do that? Well, we need to get close. We need to get real close to people. We need to ask them how they're really going. We need to not just make church about a Saturday, but actually about the rest of the week. We need to move across the room. We need to go and hear people's stories. We need to share our stories. And we need to share, hey, when the time is right, not with an agenda at all, but hey, that there is hope in who Jesus is. I want to leave you today just with 3 fingerprints of what I think, hey, we can do as a church to continue to make sure that we welcome everybody always. The first one is this: God welcomes us always. Always. Honestly, this is the reason I put my faith in God, because I know I don't measure up. And constantly I know that, hey, there's a God who welcomes me always. Does he like the way I mess up all the time? Probably not, but he welcomes me because he's got his fingerprint on my life. And he says, hey, Wes, I welcome you always. I love it because God isn't a God who says, hey, clean yourself up. Make sure you're 100% and then come to me. No, just put your faith, put your trust in me. God welcomes us always. The next fingerprint is this one where it says, hey, the way we welcome others is the way we welcome God. Man, if you want to get in relationship with God, if you want to actually know who God is, if you want to follow Jesus even closer, just love people. Love difficult people. The way we welcome others is the way we welcome God. Yesterday, Zalia and I were volunteering for the Daffodil Day Cancer Collection, and we had these bright yellow jackets on, and we were at Pharaoh's, and Pharaoh's actually said, hey, you guys can have a free coffee each, and that was really cool, and we were drinking our coffee, and Zalia actually went to the car quickly, and as she was walking to the car, another car stopped, guy chatted to her, and then she came back. And then she told me, hey, what had happened. She said, I went to the car, and when I went to the car, this car pulled up to me, and a guy shouted out the window, and he said, oh, do you know that coffee is what's going to cause cancer? All right? And she came, and actually, no, sorry. Then she responded, and as Zalia is, she's pretty good with her words. She said, it's a hot chocolate. Have a nice day. And when she came and she told me that, I just thought, man, what an idiot, right? He just misses it. But actually, the way we welcome others is the way we welcome God. Like, hey, let's just be patient. Let's just be patient with who we are as people. Let's give people more grace, more love. Be like, that's okay. And fingerprint number 3 is, hey, the church is at its best when it welcomes everybody always. The church is at its best when it welcomes everybody always. And I love this because this doesn't say the building. It says the church, the people, me and you. We're at our best when we decide, hey, that we're going to welcome everybody always. That we won't be exclusive, that we'll be known for being inclusive. I want us, honestly, to be a church like this. And I know we are. I know we get it right at times, and I know we mess up in many times as well. But hey, this should be in our blood. This should be who we are. This is who we are. This is our DNA as a church. That there's a place here for every person. No matter who you are, no matter what you do. And it's not saying, hey, that we're okay with all the bad stuff that we as humans do, but it's saying, hey, get in a safe place and see what God's going to do in your life. Today we're going to finish up, and this is only the start of the series of Everybody Always. And I'm excited about the next couple of weeks because we're going to explore, like, well, what does it mean to love everybody always? What does it mean to actually honor everybody always? How does it look to serve everybody always? How does it look to actually forgive everybody always? And how does it look to actually inspire everybody always? But as we start today, we want to actually just make a bit of a declaration. Just like, hey, God, like, I don't measure up. I mean, I don't, God. And today, actually, the only way that I can practice everybody always is when you're in me. It's when you're teaching me something inside me. It's when I'm saying, hey, God, I put my faith and my trust in you, and you're going to help me to learn how to be patient with people, how to love people, how to go the extra mile. So today, as we start this series, we're going to actually just, on that canvas, I'm going to encourage you, if it's like, man, I just want to do something, God, with my life that is a bit outside of my comfort zone. And today I'm going to encourage you as the band comes up and as they sing this song to just put your fingerprint on that canvas. Just as a sign, as like, hey, God, over these next 6 weeks, I want you to teach me what it looks like to love everybody always. And we're going to put this canvas up in our foyer. And it's going to be a constant reminder, not only for us on a Saturday, but as we go into our spheres of influence, that, hey, God, we want to take this on board. We want to actually be really practical about this, and we want to see what you can do in and through us. So if that's what you want to do, I'm going to encourage you to stand up, come and put your fingerprints on there as, hey, God, just over these next few weeks, I want you to challenge me. I want you to help me to step out of my comfort zone. And I want to put my faith and my trust in you.